Hi everybody, this is Lindsay from windingroadcrochet.com, and this is part 2 of my video series showing you a technique to use corner to corner crochet graphs for a double crochet project. Make sure to check out the other videos to this series. Part 1, we talked about the differences between corner to corner crochet and double crochet. Part 2, which is this video, we're going to talk all about gauge. In part 3, we're going to show how to prep your graph so that you can use it for double crochet. And part 4, I'm going to give you a full time lapse of working this double crochet project while sharing tips and tricks to make your project easier. So let's go ahead and talk about gauge. Now, I know a lot of people like to skip gauge, but depending on the type of project you're doing, gauge is going to be important. I really aim to make my 2 wall hangings the exact same size. Now, being this is a really small wall hanging, it would not have been a big deal if I had used a smaller hook and made it a little bit smaller. The stitches might have looked a little nicer, been a little clearer of a picture, but if you're doing something like a pillow cover or a blanket or a bag or something like that, you're not going to want it to end up smaller. So gauge is going to be very important. So in order to find our gauge, we're of course going to need to start with sample swatches. Sample swatches are important to make sure your gauge comes out correctly and your project comes out right. Now I've worked up a corner to corner crochet project gauge. It is 7 squares by 7 squares. No, you do not need to know how to do corner to corner crochet in order to convert a graph from C2C to double crochet. But since I do, I went ahead and wanted to work a sample up for you so you could visually see the difference. Now, before we get started, we are going to need to know how we are going to compare corner to corner crochet to double crochet. So with our double crochet, we are only going to use 2 double crochet and 1 row of double crochet to be the same size as a square in corner to corner crochet. If you're familiar with corner to corner crochet, this might be a little bit confusing because when we do a square in corner to corner crochet, we normally work 3 double crochet, but we work 3 double crochet around the turning chain and not into the stitches of the previous row. Because of this, the top of our stitch is exposed, making our double crochet larger, and therefore we need to have 3 double crochet to be the same width as the height of a complete double crochet. Now in a standard double crochet method, we will work into the top of the double crochet. That actually hides that very top strand of yarn, making our double crochet appear shorter. Because of this, our double crochet is now shorter and we only need 2 double crochet to reach the width of the height of that double crochet. The arrows in this photo are pointing to the top of the double crochet to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Also, the 2 squares in this photo are exactly the same size and they're showing you how the double crochet, the 2 double crochet by 1 row of double crochet is actually the same size as the corner to corner crochet square. So let's get back to our samples. This C2C sample I made is with a G hook, and this pink sample that I made is also with a G hook. And you can see how our gauge is way off. If we were using the same hook, our project would end up significantly smaller. Now the stitches are tighter, so the picture may be a little bit cleaner, but of course our project would be smaller, and depending on the project, that could be an issue. Also, this sample swatch, both the pink and the blue, are made up of 14 double crochet wide and 7 double crochet tall. That's using our formula in order to equal the same width as we'd like to have with the corner to corner crochet pattern. But yes, clearly this is going to be much smaller and we're going to have an issue with our project. So of course the size of the project is very important, that we want to get the gauge right, but something else that you really need to consider is your sample square? It is going to be very important that the sample you have is a square, otherwise your picture is going to end up being squished down in one direction or another. Now I'm using a square that is used in quilting. I find this really easy to tell gauge with, and what I'm finding is that our square is 3.5 inches wide by only 3.25 inches tall. Now, truth is, I can block this and I can stretch it and it will be just fine. But if I don't block it or stretch it, my pattern is going to end up looking just a little squished. So here's an image showing what it would look like with that gauge that we have. It would be smaller, it would be squished down a little bit. With the flamingo, it's not that bad, but depending on the picture you're using, you may be very upset with your final project if you don't realize that it's going to end up squished down and a little shorter. So if we didn't mind a smaller project, we didn't mind blocking the project, we could definitely make the G-hook work here. We just need to be aware that it needs to be blocked to make it the right size. But we are going to try and make our 2 wall hangings exactly the same size. So let's try a different size hook. So in the blue here, I've made a second swatch. This is using a size H hook. Now if I get a larger hook, I'm going to result in a larger swatch. And we've ended up being pretty darn close to our C2C sample. It's just a little bit small, but blocking it out is going to fix that. And you can tell from here that we definitely made a huge difference by just moving up 1 hook. Again, we're going to want to make sure that it is still exactly square. We don't want our image squished, or imagine if it was taller than it was wider, you'd have this really skinny image. Could be bad too. But we moved up 1 hook size and we were able to get the right gauge. So you can see here it is 4 inches by 4 inches. And so our gauge is right and we're ready to go ahead and start our project. So gauge is a very tricky subject, so if you have any questions, definitely make sure to leave them for me in the comments below and I will help you out as best I can. And go ahead and watch the next video in this series where we will learn how to prepare our graph so that we're ready to do this project. And if you're enjoying this video series, definitely make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.